Welcome to our October 12th, 2023. I hear feedback. Does anybody else hear feedback?
Good. Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, starting again. Welcome to our October 12th, 2023 regular school board meeting. We'll begin with the introduction of board members, starting over here with Jim.
Jim Lothridge.
Diane Potter.
Alyssa Tracy.
Lauren Henderson.
Cullen McGuff.
Megan Carlson.
Becky Fless.
Tony Pete.
Chris McClellan.
Sage Scully.
Jeff Hanley.
Administrative staff.
Kath Hopkins, Superintendent.
Dave Dostey, Director of Operations.
Carrie McGuire, Director of Technology.
Karen Moody, Principal of Lower Richard School.
Vicki Dugay, Principal of Riverview Community School.
Katie Gould, Principal at Helen Thompson School.
Sarah Sims, Principal Gardner Regional Middle.
Alicia Morris, Director of Special Services. Lauren Arnold, Principal at Gardner Area High School.
Angela Hardy, Director of Curriculum.
Andrea Dish, Business Manager.
Thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment for items on the agenda? Hearing none. Review and approval of the agenda minutes, prioritization of items and alteration of the established agenda format sequence as needed.
Yes, I have a few additions. So under correspondence on the first day, on the first page, if you could add, I have a resignation letter from Bobby Joe Machino, who was an Ed Tech 2 in the STEPS program at Helen Thompson. We also today received a resignation letter from Cindy Languette, who is the evening administrative assistant for adult education. The administrative report under committees, just for clarification, that will be the September report. So they're reporting on what happened this past year, this past month. Under general information, under B, new hires, please cross out Bobby Joe, as she's already resigned. And we have hired Sarah Bernier as the administrative assistant during the day at the adult ed, in the adult ed program. Under new business, this is new for board members, you don't have this on your agenda. Approval to shift a math interventionist position from an Ed Tech 3 to a part-time teacher position. This would be at Riverview. And then approval to shift a middle school reach position from an Ed Tech 3 position to a part-time teacher position. These would both be one-year positions. And then under superintendent's report, you should have received notification about the National Honor Society induction ceremony. That has been changed from October 16th to November 6th. That's what I have. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Alyssa,
Second.
second by Tony. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Approval of minutes of previous meetings, regular school board meeting, September 7th, 2023. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Tony, second by Cullen. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. No recognitions and celebrations, correspondence as written and updated. Committee reports. CATC,
We met last. It was, the second, my birthday, good. Okay. And we had a presentation by Romeo Roy, who was the professor that works with the auto repair and body work. And they seem to be full up at all times. And hopefully they can find room for more students eventually. There were some program update we had he gave us a good presentation. I thought, Pat and I were both there, and I thought it was a good presentation on the auto body program that they have, and they do some exceptional work, and the kids get a real hands-on experience. And they have the opportunity to work there off hours too. A lot of kids want to come back. I happen to have been there to watch a basketball game last weekend, and the shop was open and busy. So the kids are learning something, and they're finding good jobs. In talking about being able to move from job to job, they'll start out at $30 an hour, and they can move from place to place and end up pushing 40. So that's not bad at all for a young person coming right out of high school. I mean, obviously it's not the next day, but it's within 5 or 6 years they are. And they don't have a full-time instructor right now for the law enforcement. They thought they were going to hire somebody. I do not know if they were able to accomplish that. I think it's an officer out of the Augusta PD that may be retiring, I'm guessing. They didn't say specifically, but they're hoping to get somebody in because it's a very popular program, and it's one that's very much needed. They talked about the firefighting program that, and we have a young lady that is the representative from Richmond that's there. She happens to be a firefighter, and they're talking about the firefighting portion of it's kind of a co-program, firefighting and EMT. Their EMT is maxed out, and their firefighting program is down to just a few students. But the young lady who was explaining to the whole group as to what you don't need to know how to fight a fire to get a job at a fire department. But if you want to get a job at a fire department, you better have an EMT certification, because they'll teach you how to fight fires, but they can't teach you how to be an EMT. So that was interesting. I've been around a lot of fire departments over the years, and I always thought that was, given. Anyways, and then of course we have the financial paperwork that's got to be approved tonight, and Pat will have to talk to that much more than I can. So that's about it for capital.
Could I add maybe
Sure.
3 things? One, they did not have an instructor for their electrical program either, unfortunately, and they always have waiting lists. They have added one, but it was about 3 weeks into the session. So unfortunately, a lot of students who had already made other plans as a result, but they are moving forward. They've made some changes to their contract up there in Augusta as a way of better attracting and keeping some of their instructors. So hopefully that will benefit them. They are struggling in a few programs though, with some really low numbers. So they'll have to take a look at whether they'll be able to continue those programs. Their enrollment is down to about 349. Last year, their enrollment was at 407. But as I looked at the number, now Jim, I don't know if you noticed this, that our number this year with the students participating is up to 63. So a couple of years ago, we were as high as 66, but for the longest time, we were in the 50s. And last year, we were at 61. So given the fact that they're down almost 60 students, and our numbers are increasing, I thought that was a really good sign, and
I
it
noticed that too. It
demonstrates.
was a big deal.
Yeah, it demonstrates that our guidance department and the staff at the high school are really working with students to make sure that they know what programs are available over at CATC. So I would say that's a really good job for the work that they're doing. And I just wanted to highlight that.
To keep the instructors that they have and to encourage more instructors to apply, they have taken, it used to be that for the real world experience that you had, if you worked 2 years, you got 1 year on the pay scale. You work 2 more years, you get another bump on the pay scale. They have reduced that now to a 1-for-1. So if you worked in the industry, I think for 10 years, you start out at the 10-year program. And then I think that's max out right at that point.
Max is out at 10 or something
I
like
think so,
that.
something like that. But anyway, it's a real benefit for encouraging people to apply. So frankly, if anybody knows someone who has some experience, there are openings, and I think they'd be very happy to have some. So, great place.
Thank you, Jim. Curriculum committee.
vote on the agreement now, Pat?
Oh, it's on the,
It's later
Um,
on, right?
supposed to be.
Place. It's,
It's right under this.
It says it there, but
Where
I
is
didn't, I thought I saw it elsewhere.
Oh, yes, it does say approval. It is right here. So yes.
I thought it was
before we move
somewhere
on,
else.
We do
Yeah.
need to have that approved. And that, again, you have to approve it every year. And it's just how the cost of the program would be shared if there were a cost to the district. Right now, the programs are paid for through the EPS funding formula. So school districts are not assessed in our particular unit. We're not assessed any funds. But we have to have this cooperative agreement in place should that happen. So I do need to have
So
board
may,
approval.
may I have a motion to approve the corporate, thank you, Jim, and a second somewhere? Diane, any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries, thank you. All right, now curriculum committee.
I'm gonna try, and Angela will keep me honest, because I've got the notes, okay. And yeah, it's available online to stream as well. We started off talking about our 2023-2024 professional learning plan, which involves all the staff days and so forth for the buildings, the central office, and all those items. And this year it's centered around cultivating healthy learning. We just had an event in the last week that we'll talk about next month, but it was a well-received event from the staff and so forth. And there'll be ongoing lessons talking about discourse, challenging bias, harassment, and developing positive, productive school culture. And it was Lynn Lyons who came and talked to the community and then the staff about managing anxiety. So we got a nice calendar of all the days are filled with all the things that our staff do when they're not teaching and doing all those things. Then we talked about the assessment schedule, which I know is already underway. Students are taking classes, tests and providing feedback. And there was a letter that was distributed, so parents had the opportunity to opt out if that was something they wanted to look at. And it just laid out all the grades and which assessments happen when. So that data will be coming. We'll actually look at last year's data soon, right? Or
Yeah, this fall's data.
Okay, yeah. And then we looked at the state report, the ESEA performance report, because there's one that's due in November, so that's collected. And how's that going? I guess it's coming up soon. I know, I was gonna say it's a whole thing, so I know that. We have to do that every year. And then we just discussed what are some of the areas or topics we wanted to talk about for the coming year. We had a good conversation. And Angela took that back, and as we start to build our agendas going forward, we'll talk through some of those and they'll be on the agenda for anybody that would like to attend. So we just had our October meeting this week and we'll talk about that next month, but anything else I missed? Okay.
I would just add, we talked a lot about development opportunities for teachers.
Yep.
A lot of good stuff, good ideas about helping the teachers feel like they're moving along, in their careers.
Thank you, Alyssa. No dropout prevention.
Next week is our first meeting.
That's so exciting. Okay. So we'll hear about that next month. Finance Committee. The minutes are not ready for posting yet. However, the Finance Committee meeting was live streamed. So if you have interest, or even if you don't, it would be good to watch because we did have good, robust conversation. We talked about next steps or continuing steps to a consolidated elementary school and what that would entail. 29 acres is the newest, right? The newest requirement for an elementary school.
That would be the recommendation
The
from the
recommendation.
Department of Education.
And so what we would need to do, we would need to have a location. We would need to have an engineering study done. It would be beneficial for us to have an engineering study done of all of our buildings, not just elementary schools, to determine where we might fit on the list. And Andrea, feel free to add anything in.
We were tasked with putting an RFQ together, request for qualification, for somebody to evaluate our buildings, which would be, so Meaning Pat is working on that. You want to keep going or do you?
No, go right ahead. Tell us more. Sure.
That pretty much summed up the conversation regarding the consolidated school. We talked about a grant funding opportunity, community project funding that we talked about, or Pat talked about at the end of last year. We were a little late. They were just closing the grants, but Pat has been in conversation with Representative Golden's office, and we're looking at opportunities that we could take advantage of having some of our projects funded. We specifically mentioned the paving and the track needs to be redone. So those were among the things discussed. We talked about rates for athletic workers. It was brought to our attention that they have not had a rate increase in years. After discussion, it was decided that more information was needed. So we are planning to come back to this month's finance committee to continue that conversation. Gabe brought to the committee a project for the retaining wall at the middle school. With all of the water we've had, the retaining wall, the area behind the retaining wall has washed away. He has received a quote for the project. We discussed the cost. It's $24,700 and how we might best fund it. We decided that we would hold off on a roofing project and look at doing this now and maybe flip a roofing project between this year's and next year's budget. But before this meeting, Gabe reached out and said he looked at the roofing project quote for the high school, and it's about $20,000 less than what we thought in the budget. So we will be able to fund this project without having to flip roofing projects.
Yes.
We will need, there was a vote to move forward. We will need a vote by the full board because of the cost. And the last item that we talked about was adult education. He asked for permission to continue conversations with partners in the area to look for providing training for work opportunities. The finance committee agreed to allow him to continue, or to begin rather, those conversations. That was our meeting.
There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Policy?
No, we need you to make a motion on the
Thank you.
retention wall.
We need a motion on the retention wall because now that we can afford it and it's only October. A motion.
Jim?
I move that we go forward with the retention wall repair. Is it repair or replacement?
Yeah, so for clarification,
This is a big conversation.
the wall below will stay and the embankment above will be replaced and restabilized above.
You made that sound so simple and it was so
Yeah, it's
complex
probably
before.
not gonna be simple. And yes, we were able to find the money within the budget, so will not cost any additional. We don't have to take it from contingency, and I do not have to change the roofing project. It's status quo, so we're good.
Perfect. Thank you. So a motion. Second then, Tony. Further questions? Do you have a question?
No.
Okay, all those in favor? Excellent. And thank you for that work to get that wall taken care of. Awesome. Now, policy committee.
So we
And there was no meeting, so we just had one.
we just had one, and Pat, can we talk about potentially doing a special policy meeting
Yes.
right now, just to give people a heads up that we had a number of policies to get through, and we're delayed in getting a quorum, and then sort of had robust discussion tonight. We anticipate having a special policy committee meeting. We're going to look for next week, the 19th, hopefully as early as possible, so about 5 p.m. So I'm just putting that out there, and I think we'll send a doodle poll out. A poll will go out to committee members. But just as a heads up that we're looking to move ahead with our regular policy review, and then a little later in the year, we would like to look at updating job descriptions so that we have a comprehensive hiring process.
Okay. So please be watching for that doodle poll policy committee members so that we can get some of that work done.
Thank you.
Student reps.
So first off, the smart passes have effectively cleared the hallways of students lingering or avoiding classes. It does result in kind of crowded bathroom traffic during passing periods, but that's definitely preferable to kids like eating lunch in the bathrooms or hanging out in the bathrooms. So that's working well. Another thing that we've noticed among the classes is that college preparation for students doesn't really begin until their senior year. So we feel that this isn't enough time to do adequate preparation for the college application process for every student. Many students in their junior year still don't know what the application process entails or how they can build their transcripts to be more appealing to the colleges that they're interested in. To go along with that, students have said that they don't really receive any student information that's given out or emailed because not many students check their emails. So many students are unaware of some really great opportunities. Like last year, the sophomores, we got an email from guidance about the University of Maine at Farmington's College Pathways. So it's free college courses that you can take as a student, and you receive college credit. It's 4 semesters long, so if you pass all of those classes with a B or higher, you get guaranteed admission at UMF. And as far as I know, I am the only person who took up on that because it was really just like an email that got covered by like Google Classroom notifications. So we were thinking of a more attainable way for students to receive information. And an idea is Slack. It's a kind of a messenger app. So the Slack group chats would be organized by class. And so posting permission can also be restricted. So you could restrict students from replying. So it would really just be notifications, and students would know that the Slack app is only for student announcements. So they would be kind of more convinced to check it because they know, like on Gmail, it could just be a Google Classroom notification, but they know that these are specifically for student announcements. So yeah.
So it is coming to our attention that there is a constant use of hate speech on the bus. In regards to this behavior, we are talking to our administrators about it, and as stewards of our community, we are making sure that we are doing our best to make sure that hate doesn't go unchecked. We hope to make school a safe learning environment for all students, and we recognize that every moment a student is in school is a moment they are learning. On next Friday, October 20th at 6 p.m., the Gardner Area High School Civil Rights Team will host a community vigil in response to recent events in Israel. They hope Gardner residents will join them in showing solidarity with the Jewish community at a time when anti-Semitism is prevalent. The Gardner Area High School Civil Rights Team also recognizes the need for unity at a time when hope is fleeting. Also, the class of 2024 has been granted permission to decorate their graduation caps by our administrators. Adding a few embellishments to their graduation caps is a creative way for soon-to-be graduates to express themselves and share excitement for the future.
What's the time of the 26th?
Yes,
Okay.
6 p.m.
And what's the location at the high school?
For the
Yeah, will it be in front of the high school? Will it be down in one of the fields? Where will it be located?
It will actually be at the Gardner Common.
At the Gardner Common. Did it say that in here?
It's in it.
Okay.
What's the time? 6 p.m.
And could I just make a comment for the board on the bus, the hate speech on the bus? just so the board knows, we have had a growing increase of behaviors on buses, and what is happening, and it starts at the youngest level, is as soon as students get on the bus, they don't realize, or they just don't realize, I'll leave it at that. It's an extension of the school day.
Right.
They see it as something different, and so the behaviors that our drivers are dealing with on the buses really have intensified. And for the transportation department, for Gabe and Bud and Jeff, they spend a lot of their time reviewing video because we get reports about things that are happening. And so I know that there have already been administrators involved in looking at videos and consequences as a result of some of the things happening on the bus. But, you know, we've talked in the past about trying to have aides, trying to hire aides. That is probably a topic we'll need to continue discussing. We want our buses to be a safe place. And when you have bus drivers with 60 kids who are screaming and hollering and saying things, it's really hard for them to manage all of that behavior. And at the same time, watching traffic. And we have an increasing number of cars, vehicles that are passing buses when their red lights are on. So there's a lot for them to take care of while trying to keep our students safe. So just, I want to make sure that you know it's that is an issue, but it's a bigger issue too that we just really need to tackle. And I don't think we're any different from other schools. I hear other school districts are having the exact same issues.
Is being able to ride on the bus a privilege, or is it a service that we must provide?
We must provide transportation. Now, that doesn't mean that all students get to ride 100% of the time. We can remove students from a bus for a period of time. But for some of our students, if we're not providing transportation, they can't come to school. And we have an obligation to make sure that they get to school. Our transportation department does a remarkable job in getting some students to school on a separate bus, right? We have alternative pathways and transportation in order to get students to school safely when they can't be on the regular bus. But with the fact that we're short drivers still, we haven't been able to fill one position at all. Our hands are tied with how much we can do.
What are the consequences of bad language or bad acts on the bus? We document everything on those buses with videos.
We treat that behavior the same as if it were happening in school. So it depends what it is. I've met with students in my office that has gotten to that level where I am meeting with students and meeting with parents because of behavior on the bus. That happened a number of times last year. We have Terry, who is our affirmative action Title IX officer. She is meeting with families and students. We are writing the students up. We're suspending students. We are talking about the human rights violation, and there could be criminal charges. It's against the law to do some of the things that they're doing. And so we're using all of the tools available to us during the school day in the school building and applying that to the buses as well.
I have no faith in the fact that law enforcement will do anything about a kid on a bus. I really don't.
Well,
There's so many other things that they're concerned with.
Well, it wouldn't be law enforcement for some, depending upon the nature of the issue. When I say it's against the law, there can be some harassment. It's a human rights claim. So it wouldn't be law enforcement. It would be filing a human rights complaint.
A lawsuit, in other words. But because it's ridiculous that our bus drivers have to put up with this. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's unacceptable. And I don't know how, and I realize that as administrators have their hands tied, but at some point, we have to take some drastic reaction to these. And otherwise, it's a holiday for the kids. Mom and dad need to find out that they got to put some skin in the game.
We have students who absolutely have to come to school by, their parents have to drive them to school.
Okay.
I mean, we absolutely have that happen. But Jim, I mean, I hear you, and administration, the transportation department, people treat it as seriously as you can, but we also have this legal obligation to get students to school. And for those students, and sometimes they're the biggest repeated offenders, that if we don't provide the transportation, they're not going to be in school. So it's finding a way of holding the student accountable, yet still making sure that they're in school every day receiving their education. It's a difficult balance, Jim. It's absolutely a difficult balance.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Are you saying that there's no possible way to punish a child that misbehaves on a bus?
I didn't say that at all.
I mean,
No.
you said we're obligated, no matter how bad they behave, we're still obligated to get them to school?
I'm saying that we have students that we remove from the bus, and we tell them that they can't ride the bus to get to school. We're absolutely doing that. But I'm saying that I can't have a student removed from a school bus for an entire school year and have no way of getting to school without that school bus. Because now I'm not providing them a free and appropriate education.
You can do this for a period of time, though.
Correct.
For a week, you got to find a new way. Your punishment is a week out.
We can say that. And the other thing that I was saying is that we sometimes find alternatives. You know, we might have them go on a separate bus. We have smaller buses, or we might have a van, and we might have an ed tech take a van and go pick up students. So we try to be as creative as possible when it is absolutely necessary, not to have a student on a bus with everyone else.
Well, this sounds like you're rewarding bad behavior. The child is on a bus that's getting transportation like every other child. They misbehave so badly, they can't be on the bus. So you kicked us in the teeth, we'll put you on another bus.
Yeah, it could be seen as a reward, but at the same time, we have a legal obligation to provide a free and appropriate education. And if I can't have a student be safe on a bus with 40 students, we have to be creative and try to find another way.
Well, it's not that student is unsafe, they're misbehaving.
Well, and we will address that within the policies that we have. We have students who are suspended. We have a series of behavioral plans that are in place to address a student's misbehavior. But again, we have ultimately a legal responsibility to make sure that students have access to their education.
Pat, I was hoping you'd go to that last point. Do you feel that you have adequate administrative and policies in place to manage the situation? Because that's where we can help you. We can adjust policy or rules, but otherwise this is us trying to micromanage.
I don't know that it's a policy. I think we're shorthanded with resources. You know, we don't have enough resources. We can't fill vacant positions. We'll talk about the fact that we have some ed tech positions that we can't fill. We have very few support systems for staff, for administrators. And we've talked about it, we are incredibly lean. We know that our district spends we're in the lower 3rd% of the state in what we spend per pupil. And so if there's anything that can be done, I would say some of it is more resources. And if we were able to fill our bus driver positions, right, we would have more flexibility with our transportation department to make sure that we had these alternative options available. But right now, everyone is working incredibly hard to hold kids accountable, but to also make sure that we legally meet the needs of all of the students.
Yeah, are you saying that if you don't provide this alternate bus, that the school's somehow liable?
If we don't provide a free and appropriate education for some of our students, yes, we are liable.
Even though they're misbehaving and they're the reason. Someone else isn't kicking them off the bus, they're kicking themselves off by their terrible behavior.
Depending upon the behavior.
That makes the school liable for their behavior?
We are,
If it's disability related, absolutely.
I mean, we have situations, absolutely, we have situations where we have inappropriate behavior and our hands are tied if it's a special education situation.
All right, well,
in which it's
that's different, but an average child just being a punk or brat.
If we're not able to handle it, you've seen many students come in front of the board for an expulsion hearing. And that is ultimately the last stop. And we do, as you know, our district has brought many students forward to deal with inappropriate behavior. So
And you
that is
can't-
something that we can do.
You can't walk on the bus and point out who the disabilities are, who the special ed students are. You wouldn't recognize it. So there's not no student gets on the bus and says, you can't discipline me because I have an IEP. It's not how it works. You would not recognize that they're just kids on a bus.
But we know behind the scenes, so we
Behind
know
the
what we
scenes,
can do and we
absolutely.
can't do.
Absolutely, behind the scenes, but not every bus driver and not every other kid on the bus knows who's a special ed student. Kids are just being kids, well-behaved or not. They're just being kids on a bus. They don't have tags
But I don't want,
identified.
Jeff, you thinking that we're not dealing with these issues? We absolutely are
No,
dealing with these
I
issues.
know you are, but I'm surprised that, like I say, special education children, children that have issues, I understand. But a child that's just being a brat, if you make a special arrangement, not you, I'm not personally attacking you, but if you make a special arrangement to get them to school, it's like you're rewarding bad behavior. I'd say walk for 2 weeks, come back on, you're in probation, you do it again, it'll be 3 weeks. I don't know how you handle it, but I mean, I find it odd that the school system is so behind the 8 ball when it comes to discipline.
Well, I would push back. I don't think we're behind the 8 ball. I think our staff and our administration is working incredibly hard every single day to meet the needs of our students. And that every student they come to us with different needs, and that we are trying to individualize our response based upon what their needs are and what their situation is. And we have a legal obligation to make sure that we provide, whether they're special ed or not, a free and appropriate education. And for some students, whether special ed or not, they can't get to school and access their education if they don't have transportation.
But the reason they don't have transportation is because of their behavior.
No, the reason they don't have transportation is because their family doesn't have transportation. They can be the best behaved student and still have a family that doesn't have transportation to get them to school. Or they don't have to have special education or be a special ed student to have a family that doesn't have transportation to get them to school.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a child that misbehaves on the bus.
I understand that, but I am saying that we still have a legal obligation to get students to school. And so we will address student behaviors. We do hold them accountable. We work really hard to make sure that that we follow our policies. We make sure that there is an appropriate measured response to a child's behavior. But I am saying that we don't say you're bad behavior, therefore you're off of our bus for a year, and the student has no way of being able to access their education. We have to find a way to get transportation for the students so that they can get to school, because we can't solely rely on families to get them to school because they don't necessarily have the ability to do so.
I'm good with it.
Thank you, Pat, for clarifying all that, because it is so important, and I'm glad, I can appreciate all the difficulties and the drivers and what they have to put up with. The idea that any of our children would get on and off a bus and it'd be like running the gauntlet before they get to school because of violations for an adult of the main civil rights act. Thank you for that. I know you're trying hard, and I hope all the students understand that they can come to people
Record it.
for
Definitely.
assistance.
I also hope the parents understand that they have a role to play
Yeah, totally.
in setting the standard for conduct for their kids. I mean, I realize that's a big lift, but sometimes when a whole community rallies around, like, let's make this part of our shared culture,
Right.
that can really matter a lot.
Right.
Because it starts with name calling and it ends with
Bad
much worse things.
Yeah.
Does anybody know off the top of their head the date of Bus Driver Appreciation Day? Because it's a real day and
Find it.
yes.
I have it on my calendars. I'll get it for you.
It should be every day. It should be, and I just want to say that my children have had the same bus driver all through their elementary, and my husband had the same bus driver when he was in school, and I've been beyond pleased. I've begged this bus driver to stay until my children are all gone, and I feel very, very safe putting my kids on that bus because it's very consistent, it's very safe, they're doing exactly the best they can, driving a bus full of crazy children. And it is crazier this year than it has been. My kids have definitely noticed, but they're doing the very best they can and I appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure I gave Rusty a pie, I think, last year.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like
Yeah.
we so I think bus driver appreciation, especially this year when we're so strapped, it's a good one to remember.
Next one's April 24th.
April 23rd.
2020.
April
It's always
23rd,
Oh.
and next week is Bus Driver Safety Week, and a lot of times we do something for them during that as well from the schools.
That's
So
awesome.
Yeah.
they kind of
I will
get
say that
two
the
layers
schools
there.
always do something
Yeah.
and thank you for getting Rusty a pie.
Thank you for giving Rusty a pie.
Russ was going, I'd like another pie.
It really does make his
I think
day.
he got
and-
2 pies. I don't
It goes a
know.
long
He made out. Yeah, he got a lot of stuff. He deserves it. He's, tell me.
Just wanted to throw one more thing here on the conversation. I appreciate that we were having, obviously a robust conversation about the, what the students are experiencing. And I appreciate you bringing that forward and wanting to have the safe space for all students. And then Pat, that much is being done, as much as can be done to navigate this while recognizing every student has that right to the free and appropriate education. And also sort of recognizing, I know that when penalties are, enacted, that part can't be communicated outside of that very contained process. It's really you or the administrator and the student and family. So that on one hand, we need the communication from the students to kind of call out when this is happening. But then the back end of it, I think it is not a public hearing at that point. And even if it does get to us, that is not a public hearing at all. But just to kind of recognize that the communication that is happening is still so important to bring forward.
Right.
Wish we could switch to incentives instead of punishments. Like, if everybody's polite for a week, they get to pick the radio station.
Oh, boy.
You can't play it.
Maybe
David's like, no.
Something else.
My new school district does an incentive program for the younger kids. They get on the bus, basically like their little business cards that have a picture of the school bus on it. And if they're caught being good, they get to get off with this little business card and they take it to their front office and then their name, they collect them and give them back to transportation and their name goes down and their name goes over the announcement for the day because they were caught good. And then their name goes into a jar for like a hole for like a popsicle or something, whatever, you know what I mean, at the end of the week. And let me tell you what, my kids were so motivated to get those cards. And literally, and the drivers in my district were like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to elementary bus runs. So there are ideas, it's just, there's so many layers to make them work.
Administrator reports, and this will be the September report. Who's up first?
This went out in a separate email.
Yes.
Yes, yesterday. It went out yesterday.
Yeah. It's colorful, kind of.
Everybody ready? Queued up? The colorful one. So from LER in September, noteworthy news, we're off to a great start with family engagement this year. On Monday mornings, our Walking School Bus program has consistently had 35 to 40 students in attendance, as well as 25 to 30 parents or guardians. Many parents say they think they enjoy the event even more than their kids do. LER also held another back-to-school barbecue. That was on Thursday, September 21st. They served just over 500 family members. These events provide families opportunities to build relationships with the staff at LER in positive and fun ways. The challenge that LER was facing, and probably still is, with our unusually low enrollment in kindergarten this year and our inability to hire a Title I literacy interventionist, they decided to shift students from Mrs. Gagnon's kindergarten class into the other 3 classes since her classroom had the lowest number of students. Mrs. Gagnon agreed to fill the Title I literacy interventionist position for this school year. Parents were very supportive of the decision. However, it was a challenge initially for teachers and students to adjust to the transition. At Riverview, noteworthy news, they had a successful 2 days of staff professional development where they dug deeply into 2 topics. The first was in math practices, where a trainer from Curriculum Associates spent half the day doing learning walks in classrooms with administration and then met with the teachers to debrief and focus instruction on the Try, Discuss, Connect instructional framework. And the second topic was on anxiety. Lynn Lyons was extraordinary with her presentation, and then in smaller focus groups with staff, we came away with a wealth of knowledge on supporting our students who struggle with anxiety. Challenge for Riverview, our PE teacher resigned unexpectedly due to personal reasons. They've had to have a long-term sub in place until they can hire for the position. At HT, noteworthy news, all professional learning community PLC teams have worked through a 3-week cycle focusing each week on literacy, social emotional learning and behavior, and mathematics. Our pre-K and kindergarten teams signed on to participate in a year-long PLC group for each pre-K and kindergarten with other colleagues from around the state who are implementing pre-K for Me and K for Me. Facilitated, those groups are facilitated by the Maine Department of Education, so we're excited about that. Challenge at HT, staffing continues to be a challenge. We still have an unfilled district ed tech position, which we desperately need, and several unfilled absences when staff members are out sick. That's been already happening pretty consistently. Pittston Randolph Consolidated School, noteworthy news, classrooms have been busy communities. Where I'm From poems, bio bags, and morning meetings are a few examples of best practices that have helped build the family feel in the opening weeks of school. They have also kicked off a No Fuss fundraiser to raise $5,000 for a new piece of playground equipment that will be accessible for all students. And the challenge over at Pittston Randolph Consolidated is, familiar territory. Same challenges at Riverview and HT.
Creative.
I think that's it.
What's a bio bag?
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
That sounds very medical.
I don't know what that is, but.
Biography bag.
Oh, okay, not a biology bag,
Represent
okay.
your life and you share them out. Yeah.
Excellent, okay, sounded a little medical.
Maybe leaf, collection. Or not.
Very nervous, you go,
Pass it around.
That's awesome.
That's great, love it.
Okay.
Biography.
Okay, so at the Gardner Regional Middle School, Homeland Security and the Maine State Police did an incredible presentation for students on cyberbullying and internet safety that was well received by students. We hope that students gain some tools online when they run across various situations to help keep themselves safe along with peers and other family members. We are kicking off this year, we took off last year, our Camp Out for Hunger food drive for the month of October. It's in collaboration with 92 Moose, like we did 2 years ago. Students are trying to raise 2,000 canned food items so that not only will I sleep out on the bus ramp November 5th, but so will many of the staff. They're very excited that hopefully it will be still very cold and we will be tortured on the bus ramp. And hopefully this year we won't have ice like we did 2 years ago overnight. The weather wasn't too bad until we were sleeping and the ice started hitting the tents, but it's pretty amazing and the kids are pretty psyched. So there's big tents, food going in them, and where it's rolling, it's getting more and more. I wanted to also give just a shout out, Sam Quintana, who used to be our SRO, tapped into an anonymous donor to help us get those walkies across the district. Well, we have a student with special needs in a wheelchair, and we have multiple floors to our building. Well, we didn't have a wheelchair evacuation lift for safety. And he could not be removed due to medical concerns. And so we had a plan initially where people would have to go to him, pick him up in the wheelchair and carry him down, right? All doable, but not exactly the safest in an emergency. Well, thanks to Sam Quintana and this anonymous donor, they paid for the $3,000 wheelchair evacuation lift for us that during an emergency, we would then be able to use to get him out and transport him safely. So that was very exciting. I just needed to give that massive shout out. Challenge, I think we kind of heard this, is subs. We are not getting enough subs to cover spots. And so we are having to pull in-house resources to make that happen, including myself and Hope. We've both covered multiple classes this year simply because we didn't have anybody else to do it. And then we also have two unfilled ed tech positions. At the high school, noteworthy, there's been a re-emphasis on expectations and consistency with addressing student behavior and concerns from the main office and the staff. Hallway traffic has decreased significantly, and the digital hall pass system, Smart Pass, seems to be working really well. Challenge, cell phones. Student cell phones continues to create problems and distractions, especially peer-to-peer with incidents. No more so than it did in the past. It's manageable, but it's something they're going to continue to address for sure. In adult education, noteworthy, the new administrative assistant, Sarah Bernier, started in adult education. Whoop, whoop. A part-time position for a math teacher and advisor has been advertised. The first advisory board meetings is scheduled for October 11th. Operating the 6-week summer session really helped learners continue progress for this year, and they officially have 3 high-set diploma graduates already. That's pretty awesome for this time of year. Challenge, being without a daytime admin for the first month has certainly left them a little behind with some of their plans trying to move forward, but they're getting back on track now that they've got Sarah in the office. In athletics, there are currently 202 athletes competing in fall sports at the high school. That is roughly 1/3 of the student enrollment. At the time this is being written, all of the fall sports teams have winning records. Boys soccer, 6-1, girls soccer, 8-1, field hockey, 7-3, volleyball, 5-4, and football, 4-1. And I'm not a sports person, so I sure hope I just read those right. Okay, the golf team finished in 2nd place at the BC KVAC shootout. Cross country team is very young, but highly competitive, and they hosted their first cross country meet for a very long time in September 21st at UMA. At the middle school level, we have gone back to competing in the Capital Area League instead of the Central Maine League, which was shifted to last year. We have not had much for competition in soccer as both of the varsity teams are undefeated. Our middle school field hockey team is facing a bit more competition. Athletic challenge, having the use of the soccer field at the Boys and Girls Club is a fabulous thing. However, the field is beautiful and it is allowing for the middle school soccer players to play on a regular size field compared to the small field behind our middle school. If you've ever seen it, it's very small. But the ability to control parking at the Boys and Club has certainly been a challenge. They have their own programs going, so they have staff there. A lot of times the games are at the same time as pickup. And so there's not as many spaces. Ingrid over the Boys and Girls Club had volunteered to have staff on game days park in an alternate location to clear up some of the front spots for elderly or disabled. But really the remaining spectators have to park at the high school and walk over. And so there's been quite a bit of pushback from some of those families when they're coming in, not feeling that that is appropriate.
Next up, Sarah, you're a hard act to follow. I will not be as dynamic as Sarah was. Katie actually upped her game too, I think. I'll be ready next time.
No imposter syndrome, we got this.
I'm bringing costumes next time. I'm gonna have props, but.
Props are good.
Yeah, next time.
Okay.
Just know it's coming, anticipate it.
Okay. Don't anyone forget.
Business office, the school, how am I gonna make this exciting?
You are.
The school revolving renovation project at Gardner Area High School, AKA the asbestos abatement and tile replacement project, has been completed. Reimbursement funds from the Maine Municipal Bond Bank have been received. In addition to the approved SRRF project amount, the district paid an additional $2,428 from its FY 2024 budget for engineering services. With the exception of $557, the district has expended and received reimbursement for all of its ESSER 2 CRRSA grant. With the closing of ESSER 2 CRRSA, only ESSER 3 ARP funds remain.
You got this,
You're rocking it though.
It's good. American Recovery Funds of some sort, that's the last one that's left. Yeah. Regarding the new business generalist position, the business manager has finally reviewed applications. It's her intention to schedule interviews before the end of October. That is good news.
Yes. Come on, everyone.
Yeah. Challenge. The district received its fiscal year 2024 property and liability insurance renewal. The annual premium increased by 24%.
Oh my gosh.
Or $23,230. An increase of 10% was budgeted.
That's
3Q main care seed expenditures, third quarter, main care seed expenditures have increased by approximately 55% or $15,849. It is the hope of the business manager that expenditures will level off for the 3 remaining quarters. Okay, technology. The new LCD screen in the gym is in place, and the maintenance crew will remove the glue and old paint from the gym wall this past weekend, I think, or this weekend.
Yeah, this one coming up.
Great. The upgrade was needed and is much appreciated. We did use it on Friday with the full staff, and it was so much nicer than our opening day plastic
Boat
wrap screen. It was so much more professional. It was lovely.
It worked though, right? Yeah.
It did work. Terry was very creative, but it was an opportunity for us to upgrade. The challenge, we're working to solve a network issue that has been occurring in all schools but our high school. The outages have caused student Chromebooks to freeze for a few minutes before coming back online, right in the middle of the
Testing.
assessment.
Yeah, I heard about that.
No.
Bummer. Then what
There was
happens?
a lot of oh-nos.
Yeah,
That's
then you
what
get another
happens.
laptop and it does it again.
Do you have to start over?
Depends.
And then it comes back on.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
it was,
Patience, like eternity.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
but it's getting resolved. We're figuring it out. It's not
Good.
sort of.
Learning while doing.
We don't believe it's an internal issue. It is an external issue.
See, that's like a real world learning right there. That's the real world.
Special services, special ed staff were well represented at the anxiety presentation last week and were enthusiastic about the potential outcome for students. And the challenge is staffing continues to be the challenge. I need to pre-read these things. We hire 1 and lose 2. Currently, we have 5 ed tech positions open and 2 teaching positions. In operations, Siemens has completed the install of 11 new heat pumps and 2 new speed drives at Helen Thompson. The last of the new quartz tile was installed as part of the abatement and flooring project at the high school. Also at the high school, 9 new insulated panels were installed on the exterior walls of C wing and admin wing. Pittston has a new guardrail for the upper parking lot, and the outdoor classroom has been moved to a new location. All schools had new parking lot lining done. And the challenge. The JMG room and part of the T wing at the high school flooded due to an extreme weather event recently. Water backed up from the front catch basins and into a courtyard. After the event, we did an extensive investigation and found an undersized discharge pipe. This pipe was installed many years ago due to the original discharge pipe failure. If this issue is not fixed, we risk future flooding. As a temp measure, we have cleared an existing pipe from the courtyard that is acting as an overflow discharge in case we have another extreme rain event. Also at the high school, we have found a domestic water leak in the kitchen cafeteria area. We are working on locating the leak and repairing it. The middle school retaining wall slope is still an issue that needs to be repaired. We just discussed that earlier. Each time it rains, we have a large amount of sand that is washed down the bank and onto the walkway. Our new heating server is up and running, but we continue to have problems at the high school connecting through the firewall. Terry and her staff are working on a fix. Finally, curriculum.
Last one.
We launched our year-long learning themes with staff on October 5th. Topics included managing anxiety, engaging in civil discourse, small group reading instruction, building student independence, and more. These sessions are grounded in current educational research and facilitated by staff and administration, and I appreciate their willingness to step up and lead or co-lead. Additionally, thanks to funding from the United Way of Kennebec Valley, we were able to launch our work with Lynn Lyons on managing anxiety and worry. She held a family session on Thursday, October 5th, and staff training on Friday, October 6th. The ratings from the staff exit tickets were very high. 94.2% is the final rating of the people who rated it a 4 or a 5 out of 5. Additionally, Alicia Morris and Angela Hardy presented at What Works conference held at the University of Maine in Augusta on October 4th. The Maine Department of Education requested that we present our district's ongoing journey to shift our system to allow for greater inclusion and increased achievement. We had a full room and active engagement from participants. We also had a chance to learn from others doing this work across the nation and look forward to connecting our staff to these professionals in the future. A challenge, as Terry discussed, the outages with the internet through no fault of the district have caused some challenges and ongoing interruption to our fall assessments and access to our licensed instructional resources. While the process of discovery is resulting in clarity on the source of the problem, it has been challenging for teachers who have a plan for the day to manage the disruption.
Becky, may I make a comment?
Sure.
I know recently staffing has come up, and I think I've seen rumblings of people not realizing like ed techs need subs, teachers need subs, almost every position. Are those posted, or can people just apply to be a sub for a certain role? Is that how that works? I didn't know if it'd be good to just share that, Pat, because I think people are hearing about it, and if we remind them, maybe there will be some folks that might want to do that.
Yeah, all of our positions are posted on our website, and people can go to our website and they can fill out an application. And absolutely, they can designate if there's a certain position or a certain grade level that they would be interested in substituting. We absolutely have substitutes who will only sub at the high school or only at Helen Thompson or only elementary or anything like that. So
Great.
absolutely, we're
Thank
always
you.
looking. Anyone who subs needs to go through an interview process, just so you know. So Angela interviews every single person who applies just to make sure it's indeed a good fit before they're able to fill out any of the payroll documentation that's required. Angela, do you want to add to that?
We have hired 10 to 12 subs already this school year. We probably have one of our more active sub lists that we've had. They just don't seem to, people aren't always available. You know, and we do have a number of subs who sub at other districts too. So there, you know, there's competing priorities. They're subbing in multiple locations. We do set it up so that substitutes have a lot of autonomy in selecting their preferred building, classroom, content area, all that.
Is our per day sub rate competitive with surrounding districts?
Yes,
I think
we
so.
also had 238 absences either last week or the week before. So there has been a lot of illness.
Yeah, totally.
So it's
Very
been
good.
exceptional. Yeah.
And subs need to be fingerprinted, correct?
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
think you might want to be a sub and you're not one yet, go ahead and just get fingerprinted so that it's done.
Through the Maine Department of Education, going through their fingerprinting process, which is called the CHRC process. If you get fingerprinted in any other way, it will
They
not
won't
count.
do- Oh,
It has to be through the Maine Department of Education. But there's a clear link right on their homepage that says fingerprinting.
and does it take a long time? Is there a delay at this point?
No. The longest time is, you can get in and get fingerprinted really quickly at a site nearby.
Okay.
There's Miles Arboretum in Augusta often and some other sites. However, there's a little bit of lag time between the time you get fingerprinted and the time your paperwork goes through. And you do have to pay attention to your email because there is a one-step process. Once you get fingerprinted, you'll get an email and you have to confirm in that email for the final step to take place in the certification to go through.
It's been about a 2 to 3 week process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, I used to sub in this district before I was on the board. We had at that time, I don't know if we still do, it was an automated system. It gave you no ability to plan your life. If you had to bid on a job if somebody beat you there, you couldn't, and everything got posted through that. I worked at Wiscasset, I have for years since I got on the board. And their system it was more manual. They're a smaller school. But it was, you could plan ahead to what you, as a sub, you could plan ahead to what to expect. You could tell them that I'll be available 2 days a week, and they would just pencil you in. And it worked really well. But that bidding method, and you had to pay $5 a month, I think, they took it out of my bank account. Hell, they did it for 2 years after I stopped subbing here.
So can we be clear, because I don't want someone listening to be thinking that that's what we're doing. We have a free system. We have an online frontline system that most of the school districts in the region use, especially if you're subbing in multiple places, you go to one platform and see multiple districts. You only see what you're opened up to. So if you only want to work at the high school, you only see the high school opportunities. If you want to see all the schools, you see all the school opportunities. You select what you want. You can absolutely positively plan in advance.
Okay, that's a whole different ballgame.
And on top of it, if you want to be called through an automatic robocall, you can do it or you can turn it off. You can select the days you want to be called and select the days you don't want to be called. There is so much flexibility, and you can have an app on your phone if you want to, but you don't need to. So the system may have been similar to that, Jim, but at this point in time, it is much more current, and there's a lot more flexibility for the person substituting to plan their life and engage in substitution.
That's where I was going with this, because the old system that I was used to here was just miserable. And it didn't start, it was something we changed to. I remember having to sign up. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's not the case now, so that's great.
So Jim, subs are able to set their calendar electronically through their computer. And subs can also go in and grab jobs on their computer, so they don't even have to be called. If you don't have a computer or you aren't able to go in and select your jobs, you can opt to be called, but subs have a lot of flexibility here.
That's good.
Yep.
It makes life a lot simpler.
It does.
Thank you, sorry for the squirrel there.
Well, squirrel, but no, but we need to make it as clear as we possibly can, because it felt more complicated than it really is.
Yeah, right.
So that's good, so thanks. Moving along, Hope Field.
I'm sorry, Becky, one question. Is the increase to the property and liability insurance board's comment, or is that better suited to go to the finance committee? That's a pretty jaw-dropping increase.
I guess I would recommend we have a lot of feelings about insurance. And that could be a good conversation for finance to have.
It's a standard increase across the board. Everyone's seeing increases in property and liability. But if you want to continue the conversation, I'd be happy to continue it at finance.
Okay, I mostly just, are you comfortable with the overrun? Because it's not gonna go down.
No, it's not gonna go down. We'll discuss it at finance.
Yeah, we have a lot of feelings about our
You
insurance.
said that, I felt it, like.
I know, a lot of feelings around our insurance.
I had a friend
So, yeah, I
who
think
told me
that would
last week,
be,
he said, property insurance is gonna go up like 30%. I was like, get out of here.
There it is, right?
yeah, no, I think that would be great for us to process and tackle in finance, because there are a lot of feelings
There
about
are a lot of feelings.
it, as there should be. Hope Field, so this past week, was it this past week? It feels like,
Yeah, last week.
wow, feels like a long time ago. We met down at the Hope Field to take a look at the wall. And it, in fact, is standing.
Whoa.
It's taller than I thought it was going to be, but it's there and you can't miss it. And the tiles are in, but the bricks
are in, but the tiles
are not. So we're moving along.
Correct. So what that means is those who went online and bought a tile for like $150, $250, $500, those are in. but the larger tiles that represents the larger donors. Those are not slated to be mailed or shipped until sometime in November. So we can't put the bricks up until we receive all of them. But if you're down there and you're looking at the wall, it's important to know that the base cement, you're not going to see that. There's going to be, that will be covered. There will probably be some flowers or some bushes. It's going to look very different and a lot more attractive than what you see when you walk down there right now.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's,
right now
it's
it's
just a
concrete.
rough representation.
It's a
What
concrete
the
one,
final
right.
will be.
but there'll be mulch and
Right.
bushes and it'll
Yeah.
look like it was always there.
Right.
Are we able to attach things when it's cold? Will
Yeah,
that be,
so that's, we're
we're gonna have to talk
we're
about that.
hoping we'll be able to make it in this year.
Uh-huh.
If not, it would be April. I
Okay.
don't want that to be,
I
but
hadn't really,
We have feelings about this too.
yeah,
That's what I'm feeling.
we're very feelings.
it's been a long road
Right.
Yeah,
and.
yeah. Show progress. That's
trying to make
good.
progress.
Yeah.
Well,
no, that's
progress
good.
is,
But we want to make sure that everything is correctly
Right.
done.
Yeah.
And all the bricks and the plates are correct before anything gets mounted on.
Yeah.
So it's, we want this to be the final piece.
and it's a process. And we understand that it's a process. Don't want to waste any money or anybody's time. So it takes the time it takes, and that's good. Okey doke, moving along. General information.
Just as provided.
Okey doke. Nominations none, new business.
All right, so we have a lot of new business here. One, we need the annual approval of the emergency crisis plan. The crisis plan, as a reminder, our crisis plan was aligned a few years ago with the Kennebec FEMA. We had state police, local police, fire department, all present when we developed it. So it's a pretty standard plan that we have. Every year, our administrators will update the plan with new information, whether it is about new classrooms that have moved around, whether it's new staff members who have different assignments throughout their building in response to a potential crisis. Now, it had been my intention this year to work with our SRO to help lead some of the safety crisis plan to make sure that any changes that have occurred, that we have made those changes in our plan. With the shift in SROs, that hasn't happened. So it is my intention to take our plan and to share it with a new department that's been created at the Department of Education, a safety team. And I'm going to share the basis of the plan to see if there are any key elements that are indeed missing, just to make sure that we are using the most current research and methods to ensure safety in our plan. So that is my intention, and hopefully with the hiring of a new SRO, once that individual who is very skilled, lots of experience in law enforcement, that once he gets settled and he has a bit more time, that he and I can sit down and I can use him as a resident expert and help guide, again, this emergency crisis plan and move it forward. And I have the basis, right? I can't show all of the specifics, right? But I do have that foundational piece. And of course, that is available for any board member who wishes to take a look at that. So I do need a motion.
So a motion then, please, to approve the emergency crisis plan.
So moved.
Moved by Tony, second by Colin. And I would encourage anyone who has any interest in that to just come into central office. It's a huge document. But if you have any concerns or thoughts about what our escape plan is, come look. It's a good thing. All right, all those in favor? Motion carries. The Jewel settlement.
Yes, all right. So, gosh, for
Been a
board
while.
members who've been on the board for a little while, I think this, I I think it was probably 2 years
That's
ago,
what-
maybe
like-
3 years ago.
Yeah.
That I came to the board saying, asking you if you wanted to be part of a civil lawsuit against the jewel companies, and you agreed to join in, and it has now settled. And so as a result of that settlement, MSAD11 is slated to receive $10,953. And I've already had some preliminary conversations with building administrators. We, as you know, work really closely with HCCA, Healthy Communities of the Capital Area. And what we want to do is to use these funds once we receive them to look at our practices and how can we proactively really address the needs of our student body. You know, we have a number of students who do misuse alcohol, drugs, tobacco. And so I would like this money really to be slated at getting programs that better support those students. And with that, I would also say that another item I would like the board or policy committee to spend some time on this year, that is your drug and alcohol policy. When I came on board, your policy was no tolerance. Any student who was caught using drugs or alcohol had to go to the school board for an expulsion hearing, period. And I talked the board at the time into giving me at least an opportunity to have a conversation with the families and the students about the consequences. I feel like we're at a different place now. And I would like for the policy committee to spend a little more time in really looking at research and looking at preventative ways in which we can support our students who are using alcohol, tobacco, drugs. Just because they're using, if we send them home and expel them for 3 months, they're still going to be sitting home using. Right? They're not changing their behavior just because they're out of school. So there are some best practices out there. South Portland has a pretty extensive model. And I would like to share that information eventually with the policy committee. But that's just to kind of get a general sense of how I'd like to see that money used. But I need school board approval to even accept those funds. So, Jim.
I move that we accept the funds and that we earmark those towards the programs that Pat is talking about.
Thank you.
Second by
Second.
someone? Second by Diane, great. Any questions from the board, comments? All those in favor? Excellent. Well, thank you for pursuing that. Parent-powered Ready 4K program.
Angela, would you like to update the board on this program?
Sure. Stand here. So this is a program that is being funded through the Maine Department of Education to this nonprofit organization called Ready 4K or Parent Powered Ready 4K, another nonprofit organization. The intent is to engage with families in a more non-traditional way. So to reach out to families via text message in a routine practice 3 days a week, typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, in predetermined messages that are differentiated by grade level. To allow for just-in-time information and opportunity for learning and reflection that's meant to be supportive. Families can always opt out. And for example, the first message that goes out, they're only like this long in a text message, is a fact. Like change and uncertainty can be hard for young children. Creating routines that can stay the same help kids feel more secure and in control. And then a couple days later, a tip goes out and that follows the thread from the fact, such as when your family experiences change, create a ritual that can stay the same. You might read a book to your child each night or sing the same song when your child wakes up. And then a couple days later, there's a note called growth, such as keep sticking to routines as best you can. In the morning, try always to do things in the same order. Draw a picture of each step in your routine to help your child remember. So those are just That's like a 1 week example of an early elementary situation. At this point, we have 796 active enrollments with an additional 47 that were enrolled but opted out. So out of 843 original enrollments, only 47 people have opted out in 3 weeks. Of course, if a parent has more than one child, they're going to get more than one message thread because it's based on the grade level. So sometimes they may be opting out because they're like, okay, I like the first grade one, but I'm good with not having the 5th grade one, or I want the 6th grade one, but I'm okay without the kindergarten one, because it just might feel like overload if they have a number of children in the home. It does come in multiple languages. Right now, there is one secondary language being accessed by a few people. Otherwise, it's people have chosen the English language. And we have sent out 3,000 messages at this point. So that's where we're at. We're only 2 or 3 weeks in.
Nice.
So it feels good. We will, halfway through the year, there will be a 2-question survey that will get pushed out to people's text messages. They don't have to answer it, certainly, but they can choose to click the link and answer the 2 questions. It wouldn't use any more data than just looking at a text message and replying to a text message. And again, it's an optional response, but we will be able to get that data, which we don't know who says it. We just get to see what the information is that they're sharing to give us some insight about the value of this tool.
Do we get to create that survey, or that's just part of the tool itself?
It's part of the tool itself. However, we can add a customized question if we choose
Maybe a
to.
little bit of very local interaction.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, just to clarify, I think the brochure or the write-up is at the end of our digital packet. Does that sound right?
Possibly. I know we sent one to families.
It's like, yeah.
He's got it right here. We were just
I
looking at
think
it.
I think
It
that's
is
what
in
I'm
our
looking at.
packet.
Where did this program originate? Somebody developed it.
Yes, it's Ready for K, the number 4, K. It's out of parent-powered PBC. It was copyrighted in 2020. It's a nonprofit, and it's a highly researched tool. Like, it's based on educational research about cognitive development, social and emotional development, and effective communication strategies.
What grades does it cover?
It actually goes right up through 8th grade. We're not funded for the middle school grades, although there's a high level of interest from some groups of people for us to engage the middle school families. I have put a couple inquiries into the Department of Education and to this organization to secure a quote and get some interest, more information about the middle school level. Right now, we're engaging pre-K to 5 in our district. So depending on how this goes and depending on the information I get back about the middle school levels, which I think would be a really interesting time, because those also, they're not gonna get early childhood messages, going to get messages based on children who are in a very tumultuous stage of adolescence. I have been there. I probably wouldn't have minded a few reminding messages and helpful hints about how to parent at that time. But again, it's an opt-out, so people don't have to get it if we do end up securing that. But
Yeah, the message introducing it was very clear,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very well branded, so, yeah. I mean, I read it because it's like easy enough.
Yeah.
Gives you a
Sure.
word, right? And
Yeah.
then you just have a fact and you're like, oh, exactly, like, oh, all right.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
And
Yeah.
we, at one point, I don't have it up right now, but I did look into like, where is this being utilized? And it is being utilized in many states and districts, and therefore districts across this country in lots of different demographic settings. So it's not only urban or rural or suburban, it's not only in northern New England or only in the South, it's sort of all in lots of different regions. A lot of departments of ed in different places have supported it, but not always does it come through that level. It can come just through the district level.
Thank you. Approval for Maine Cabin Masters to construct
Ooh.
an auxiliary
exciting.
outdoor science classroom at Gardner Area High School.
This is really exciting. So let me give you a little bit of background. Pleased that Sharon Gallant is here, who is our outdoor science, our teacher, experiential. I'm not sure what your exact title is, but I'll talk a little bit about how she has secured a grant to provide outdoor instruction. And what we're hoping to accomplish if you approve it this evening. So last year and a half or so ago, when we were in the throes of COVID a bit, we really started thinking about having outdoor classrooms. And so about last year before, Mr. Kempton thought, wouldn't it be great if I put in a proposal to Maine Cabin Masters? And we didn't hear anything. Well, they called this fall and said, okay, we are interested. And we had to backtrack a little bit. He had put together a pretty comprehensive building with electricity, and it was going to be right near the school, and it was going to be $40,000. And at the time when he submitted the grant, he was thinking we would have federal dollars to help fund the construction of this building, which we no longer have $40,000 available because we shifted that money to personnel so that we could maintain some of our social workers and coaches. So we stepped back a little bit and said, okay, well, what can we do? And so that's when we reached out to Sharon. Sharon has secured what's called a REV grant, and certainly I could have Sharon speak to you about that. That she had received a REV grant through the Department of Education. It was a $100,000 grant that would allow her to provide instruction to students outdoors. And the $100,000 allowed her to buy equipment and everything. And so she received a follow-up grant as well for another $40,000. And so the thought was, well, let's reach out to Sharon, and is there an opportunity here for us to have them construct an outdoor classroom for the science program? And that's what the proposal is that they are fully on board, that they will construct. It will be, I think I can say publicly how much it would be. It would be within the budget that is available through the Department of Education. So there would be no cost to the school district. It's all through state dollars, and that they would construct this building down behind the outfield, the baseball outfield, down by the tree line, which would allow Sharon to have access to the woods, which is where she does a lot of her work. The construction would begin soon, like within a week and a half. It would begin, and it would conclude right before Christmas break, and then the unveiling show would be this winter. So we do need your permission. We want to be really, really clear that this is a public entity, we have to make this public, but at the same time, we want to be respectful of the fact that this is part of a show, that we are not allowed to take photos. We're not allowed to publish photos. We would respectfully request that people stay off of that part of the property, that they do not take photos and post photos online, so that we can really maintain the integrity of the program and of the intent. So we have Sharon, Lauren, Gabe's been involved, and we're hoping to have the opening part of this would include certain members of our staff. Again, I don't want to reveal too much. I want to make sure that everyone's a little bit surprised. I don't want to give any key parts away, but we've been working behind the scenes to try to make this happen. So I guess I would say, Sharon, is there anything you would like to share that I haven't covered, or maybe provide a little more clarity on the REV grant and what it is that you're doing as part of your outdoor classroom?
So
when we changed part of our curriculum to earth science for all freshmen, it really made no sense to me to teach earth science from a book. So I created a program and obviously received the funding so that we are outside about 90% of every classroom. So we're outside for about an hour every day. And there have been some issues. I think the janitorial staff will mention a little bit about the mud. And so we have had some issues really being able to complete the project to the best, or to really where I hope and envision it to be. I think Pat's really covered everything else really very clearly. I think for me, the reason that I'm so behind this is that, well, for a number of reasons, I think we know what outdoor education and experiential education does for kids, particularly kids who aren't really good book learners. And the increase that we've seen so far in, or the decrease, I should say, in failure, or increase in success for freshmen has been significant in the first year. I'm really hoping that wasn't by accident. I'm really hoping that that was because of this new program. And the second part for me is good news for Gardner is always great. And so for me, this is a great way to show off what we actually have here in our district. When it's bad news, it happens a lot, and we don't always get to hear all of the great things. I know we have two lovely representatives that share with you a lot of the good things, but they can't always share everything. So I think this is such a great opportunity to really bring our district and our school up to the forefront so that everyone knows what we already know. Sort of secretively though. Until February, and then,
Right.
we're
On the down low.
right on the DL, that's right.
Well, and not to toot her horn, but she was the teacher of the year last year, so you're just fulfilling all
Hampton
your.
County.
Yeah, so I think it's great, and I have a freshman who takes your class next semester, so she's gonna be excited.
Excellent.
Yes, it's gonna be awesome.
Lauren is.
Yeah, I was just gonna clarify, and Gabe can talk more, but the build is like no electricity now.
Yeah.
So like Pat said, there has been changes, so.
Yeah.
I'll let Gabe kind of go over it.
Yeah,
And location.
it's very much cabin masterish, I guess, if you wanna say. So it's really low key, rustic, that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, and the idea is, not to have the electricity down there, no running water. And it'll be a great place to store all of the science stuff and all of the boots in the mud and all that, so it's not coming into my building, so.
Your building?
We've heard that before.
Part of the grant, a significant part of the money, a little under $30,000 was spent on clothing. It's a real big deal for me, for kids, regardless of your income level, to be able to have LLB stuff to wear outside. So there's boots, there's winter jackets, there's rain jackets, there's rain pants, there's mittens and hats. And so if you come that day and you have your cool new white sneakers on, you can, put on a pair of boots. So that regardless of who you are or where you come from, that we're all outside in this really incredible, gorgeous location and with all of the equipment that you would need. So they don't have to bring anything, I supply it all.
And just for assurance, we are working with the legal team behind the scenes. There will be contracts. We are talking about insurance to make sure that should anything happen, that the district is protected, so.
You just read my mind. You're good.
Yeah, be assured, all of that work is happening behind the scenes.
And just to be clear, is there any financial outlay on the part of the district outside of the grant funding that will be coming in? Okay.
The only outlay that I can think of right now, and I don't know the amount, has to do with cameras. After the fact, we want to make sure that we have some security cameras down there. So if there is the risk for vandalism, we want to be able to see who's the culprit. So I don't know how much that will cost, but that's the only outlay that I can currently think of.
There's electricity to the scoreboard, and it will be about 25 feet probably from the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So it's not like we would be laying line, from the building itself. It would be pretty accessible to be able to make those few adaptations.
But it is important also to understand that during the construction phase, they will not be there every single day. but they will be there during school days. But they will have 10 to 12 different pickup trucks, SUVs. There will be a filming crew. So we will just need to stay away from that portion of the property as much as we're able to.
Is there any expectation that they'll be filming faculty or staff or students?
If there is any filming, there are releases that will have to be completed. For if there is a student, both parents have to sign the release, not just one parent, so we'll be very careful.
There definitely will be.
I just wanted to ask Sharon, is this aimed pretty much for the freshman earth science class, which is great, but are there other uses?
Yes, so that was really the intent. The building that Chad was looking at was right directly behind the high school. And really more like an entire classroom outdoors. This is really more of a science building. So we have chemistry and our physics teacher who will both be able to use, well, all of them really, but those two in particular will be able to use it as well. And anyone else that wants to come on down and deal with the dead things, come on down.
What's the square footage?
A little under 600.
Do you have to deal with any site permitting or runoff mitigation?
Yeah, so
Like, yes.
where it's at, I mean, it's an ideal spot. It's tucked just in behind the scoreboard. It's not in any wetlands or anything like that. I've already been in contact with the city, have met with code enforcement over there. He's basically given me, this is what we need to do, this is how we need to do it. So I'm following kind of his lead too, which is great. So we're all kind of working together as a group. We just need all of your approval, and then we can kind of hand in the paperwork and get the ball rolling. So I think it's a great opportunity for, like Sharon said, for Gardner, for the school. I can see just future uses of it. I think it's great. It's really, really great for us.
Exciting opportunity.
Sure is. Yeah.
So who wants to make the motion to approve?
Can I?
Sure.
Second.
Yeah, second by Alyssa. Any questions or congratulatory comments? Good work. Thanks for doing that.
Very cool.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
And whenever the big reveal is, we'll have to
we'll have to have a
organize
big-
some
yes.
type of
A board field trip.
Yeah, there'll be a celebration.
some sort of celebration. We'll have maybe open up the gym
That's
and
a screen to use.
something, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do some popcorn and, right, we can all watch the episode together, yeah, so.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Sharon. Great.
You're incognito.
All right, legislative update. I try to provide this to you every year.
It's quite a book.
Last month, I went to a legislative workshop. These are all the new laws. I did not provide in my summary an update on every single one. I tried to pull out the most important that I felt was most valuable to you. Tonight, I'm not going to go through every single one. You have this summary in your handbook, but I thought that there are a few that I should highlight, and there are a couple that you may want to spend a little bit of time talking about. So one is LD 394. Just want to make sure that you are aware that rules have changed a little bit regarding school counselors, social workers, and really emphasizing the fact that those individuals need to be spending about 80% of their day with students, interacting with students as a way of limiting IEP meetings, other parent meetings, other responsibilities, duties. So we are pretty much already meeting this threshold, so it's not an issue for us, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. LD 892 actually has to do with our safety preparedness and emergency plan, and that we must designate a representative with oversight in each of our buildings. That is something that is already done, already in place in all of our buildings. LD 1002, I wanted to make sure that you're aware that the DOE is planning to do a comprehensive study this year. And they're going to be looking at statewide, nationwide, and international approaches to looking at the school day, relevant instructional requirements, educator planning and prep time, looking at lunch periods, recess periods, electives, after school, extended day programs, and school start times. So my guess is from doing this very extensive study, there will be a report no later than February 1. I'm not sure what they will do with that data that they collect, but there could potentially be some recommendations or future legislation that will be considered.
They're going to be going to different schools to evaluate what different schools are doing? Or where's the?
I'm not sure how they're going to collect their data. I just know that they're going to look at statewide, nationwide, and international data, but I have no idea how that information will be collected. Let's see, LD 1022, that is looking at extending the time allowed between a budget meeting and a budget validation referendum. We only had 30 days before, it is increased to 45 days. My understanding is that the reason for that change is to allow a little more time for absentee ballots, so. State agency client, LD 79, clarification on the definition. Why I wanted to share this with you is it is now law. We've already talked about this in our district. We've already changed some policies, but it is now law that we have to provide services to children until they turn age 22 for special ed students. This is something we're going to have to grapple with, right? What the law has been is that you have to provide services to someone when they turn 21 or through the rest of the school year of when a person turns 21. The law now says until they turn 22. Okay, those are two very different expectations. And you're going to have to consider what you want to do. Is it the day that they turn 22? We don't need to do it tonight, but is it the day that they turn 22, which is October 12th? Or is it through the remainder of the year? Someone else, it might be May 25th. So there are conversations that need to be had. First with special education, I think it really needs to be a recommendation from our special ed department, and that will go to policy. So be on the lookout for that. Something that we're already working on, I know, Jim, this is something that you have considerable interest in, as do we, LD 436. That is looking at our CTE students and making sure that they receive credit towards high school graduation by 25, 26. Students who participate in CTE, they've always received credit in our district, right? If they go, they might receive, say, 6 credits. As of 25, 26, it's not just general credits. They will be able to receive credits in specific content areas, right? So they're taking a mechanic class, right? And so they're going to meet some math requirements for our school district, some English requirements. So that is already being worked on in our district, but I want you to know that that's going to be a requirement by 25, 26.
Fantastic, because there's so much overlap between you learn how to tune an engine, or you learn how to run a lathe, and there's millimeters and you have to learn.
Yeah.
That's great.
Wanted you to know that the COVID-19 diplomas, that has been extended to 2026. That means that we have students, if they don't necessarily meet our graduation requirements, they can still meet the Department of Education graduation requirements and receive a diploma through the Department of Education, and it's called a COVID diploma. There is LD 1756, protect employee freedom of speech, that I wanted to bring to your attention. So basically what this law says is that we as employers cannot force our staff it's called a captive audience meeting. We can't hold this captive audience meeting and force them to listen to or receive communication from us regarding religious or political matters. So I can't have a meeting and say, okay, all of the high school social studies department has to sit and meet with me, and you're gonna sit and you're gonna listen to my religious or my political beliefs on something, right? I can't force them to sit there. They have the right to leave or say, no, we're not gonna do that. However, we do have the right to require them to attend conversations or meetings that involve conversations regarding religious or political topics if it relates to their work. Okay, so if we're gonna have a conversation about the human rights law, right? LGBTQ, transgender students, et cetera, someone could say, well, that's a political matter or it's against my religious belief, right? So therefore you can't force me to participate in this meeting. But in this particular case, there is an exception to that law if it ties directly to their work. So if we're telling them, this is what you need to know, this is what the law says, you need to have this information in order to do your job, we have every right to require them to attend that meeting. So there's a clear distinction about that. But I could see where that could get a little messy, right? So I wanted to make sure that you were aware. All right, another law that is important for you to know is LD 1095, in which unions are now permitted to demand school districts to bargain over mandatory subjects of bargaining during the term of a collective bargaining agreement. So that means we have just finished bargaining a 3-year contract. And an association decides that there is a subject that we didn't previously discuss that they now want to bargain, such as health insurance. So in the past, you would say, sorry, we have, the contract is for 3 years. We will discuss health insurance in 3 years. The law now says, no, if they want to open the contract to bargain that mandatory item, then they have the right to do so. What they don't have the right to do is to force the board to bargain, again, over ed policy, right? You can say, I'm sorry, we're not going to negotiate ed policy, or permissive subjects of bargaining, which would include like teacher prep time or teacher transfers. That's permissive, meaning you could bargain it if you choose to, but you don't have to and they can't force you to. So for those items, they cannot require that you open up your contract to negotiate. It's only for mandated subjects of bargaining. So
Can't just be anything.
can't just be
Didn't it
right.
used to be that you had to have a minimum of 3 things you wanted to reopen the contract for or something like that?
I don't remember that. I don't know. I don't remember that. You may be right. I just don't remember that.
Anyway.
All right, then there's LD 1588, which has already been in place, but this has been expanded a little bit so that we are required to provide to labor unions access to information regarding our employees. So whenever we hire an employee, we are required within 30 days of them being hired or them accepting an offer of employment, we must provide individual's name, their job title, their workplace, their home address, their work phone, their home phone, their personal cell phone number, their work email, and their personal email address if we have it. And we are required to provide it, period. So it will be up to the individual if they don't wish to have that information shared. It will then be their responsibility after they receive communication from the association or the union to say, no, I don't want that information. We don't have the right to ask employees if they want that information shared. We are legally obligated to share it if we have it.
So they can't opt out.
They can opt out after we share it the first
After all
time.
the information's been transferred.
Correct.
That's kind of like closing the barn door when the horse is in the pasture.
Yeah, right.
Off the top of your head, is that in conflict with any other district policies about sharing employee information with third parties?
We would
Many
not,
employers have that.
we would not share any of that information with a third party. We would not.
Does
That's the
this
law.
constitute a third party though?
Yeah.
This ought to go to court, actually.
Isn't it, you know?
An employee will have to do it.
You're right, an employee, someone would have to say, you're right, they would have to fight it and say, this is unconstitutional. It's
Well, to
a
give away my
violation of my
private
privacy.
information to someone I don't want them to have it.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the way it's written. So we have to provide it. And then once it's released, then that employee has to go back to the associate or to the union. It's not the association. It's the state MEA and say, yeah,
Unsubscribe.
I do not want you to have access to that information.
Would the prospective employee be notified, hey, as a condition of, I mean, as a statutory condition of hire, your information's going out? Could they choose to say not work here or any other school, right?
We cannot give them the option of not sharing it the first time.
But
We
to let
can-
them know that we're going,
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about
No.
notifying. Yeah,
This is going to happen.
yeah.
it's gonna
We
happen.
we can say you need to know this information is going to be shared.
And it's only for positions covered by the association, correct? I don't have to share administrators or.
Correct, it's any association, the majority of our staff are covered by the MEA. So there are only a few of us in the
Right.
district.
Substitutes, I wouldn't share that
Correct,
information.
administrators, central office staff, you would not, but the majority of people you
So these
will.
bullets are just shorthand, this isn't the actual language, because it just says public employees. That would be everything.
This is just shorthand,
Okay.
but I believe it is.
One other thing that's not clear in here, the district has to provide that to the bargaining agent
Mhm.
on request, or it automatically, every time you hire
Automatically.
somebody, you have to reach
Automatically.
out? How are you
Yes.
supposed to know who the bargaining agent is at a given moment?
We only have one bargaining
We do,
agent. We
yeah.
have MEA. Yeah, it's the only one.
And then it looks like you have to do it 4 times a year.
Yeah.
So if we didn't get it, we'll get it 4 times a year. Yeah.
You didn't get it the first 3 times.
Then I saved the best for last.
No.
So I'm sure you've all heard that the state has now approved a paid family medical leave for all employees throughout the state. It is going to go into effect May 1st, 2026. So there's some time before people are eligible to access this funding. As of January 1st, 2025, right, so not far off, employers have to begin paying to the state 1% of employees' wages to go towards this paid family leave program. Now, we have to, as employers, pay 0.5%, and employees pay the other 0.5%. So that 1% is shared between employees and the employer, all right? So just for all of us who are working, as of January 1st, there's going to be another tax for us, just so you're all aware. This program will be managed by the state. It will not be managed by our office, right? So the money will go to the state. There will be some department up there who will be that will be managing it.
But no point anything for Andrea to facilitate this 0.5 to 2 places.
She will just be sending the money.
Yeah.
She won't be
That
compensated for it.
agency will be deciding who qualifies
Oh my gosh.
for this family medical leave. There are a lot of questions. I can tell you right now, I won't be able to answer every question that you ask. The rules for this program do not have to be developed until January 1st, 2025. So the day that we have to start taking the money is when the rules have to be finalized. So I just won't have the answer to all your questions. What the law says is that it applies to all employees. All employees who have earned at least $6,000 in our district. So that may be substitutes, it may be coaches. It doesn't mean that it's just our regular full-time employees. They will have up to 12 weeks leave, paid leave. Historically, for family medical leave, it's been very defined about who you can use that leave for. It's for yourself, it's for your spouse, it may be for your child, but it's been pretty narrowly defined. So now, under this new law, the extended family, it has expanded the family member definition. Okay, everyone's listening to this?
Buckle your seatbelts.
So it now applies to adult child, grandchildren, grandparents, siblings, or other close relatives who are like family.
They really. No chance of abuse, is there?
None.
They really put that in there?
No,
We're good.
it's in there.
It's in there.
How do you argue
You
against
can't
that?
even make that up.
You can't.
Do you have the LD number for that?
Yeah, no, I do not.
Hey, Tony, we're close, right? Sure.
So
what's that one called? I might be able to look that.
I don't have an LD, they didn't give me an LD number. It's family.
Medical leave. Yeah,
So
I'll look it up.
there's more.
But wait,
There's more.
That gets amended.
For businesses such as school districts that already provide paid leave, we cannot force anyone who is accessing this family medical leave to use their accrued time at the same time. So what that means is that you can have people out on 12 weeks of paid family leave
And then
come back here and then still access all of their accrued time. So if you have someone who never uses sick time and they get seriously injured, they have 160 days, they could technically be out for 3 months plus almost another year. So be aware of that. And when a person is out, we are required to continue accruing their benefits. New employees must receive notice. This is for you, Andrea. New hires must be made notice of this benefit within 30 days of their hire, or we're gonna be fined $50 per employee.
That office is gonna have all these people policing it.
We also must give the employee an equivalent job and pay when they return if they've worked for the district for more than 4 months, okay? Leave is for serious health conditions, but it also includes domestic violence language now and like safe harbor. So if you are a person who is dealing with domestic violence, either assault or say stalking, right? You have someone who's stalking you and you need to hide, get away, move out of town, for a while. This family medical leave language covers them or covers those incidents as well. Let's see, employees who misrepresent their request will be disqualified from access to the fund and will have to reimburse the state for payments received. It will be up to the state to manage this. They will be making the determinations of who's eligible, who's not. How they will do that, I have no idea. Again, the regulations are slated to be completed by January 1st, 2025, so more to come.
Does it say anything about a sick dog or a sick cat?
I know, right? That's what I was thinking too.
My
like
pets, when I
divorce?
had pets, were like family. So I would call that close relative like family, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
The only other miscellaneous bills, I mean, there are others here that I've listed, but certainly highlight, they're doing another analysis of, essential programs and services, so be aware of that. And, we are going to be required to put anti-pinch sensors on school bus doors. You're aware of that, right? Yeah. So that will be coming. So that will increase the cost
That's so
of
random.
our, but it will increase the cost of our lease
Yeah.
for our buses, so that you're aware.
How often have we had an incident of school bus pitching?
It's LD 258.
LD 258, LD 258.
This is the family medical.
I don't know. We haven't had any issues
Zero.
with, no. But there have been incidents in the state. I don't know the frequency. I don't know I have no idea.
Same as an asteroid hit, I suppose.
Yeah, I have no idea. It may have been once or twice, but yeah, I don't know. So that's my legislative update. There's more. I did not read every one to you. Please, I encourage you to go in and take a look at the rest of them. So that's all in your packet.
So some of those will come up in the session I'm doing, do you think? Or will
They've
they?
already been approved.
They've already been approved.
Yeah, they've already
so-
passed the
okay.
legislature, so I
maybe
don't
not.
know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
So if can I move to the next one then?
I wish you would.
So the next one is just a revision to the MSAD11 school calendar. Inadvertently, I don't know how it was on the calendar, inadvertently somehow in our modifications, we had 2 early release days that were left off of our camera that I just need, off of our calendar that I need to bring to your attention. One is an early release on December 21st. And the other is the early release on February 1st. We're already using that day for, again, professional development.
Yeah.
So anytime we have modification to the calendar, I just need board approval. So I'm hoping, since this was inadvertently, that you will change it.
Moved by Alyssa, second.
I just heard Megan.
Yeah. All right, all those in favor? We're not allowed to question or comment, just.
Thank you. All right, then,
That's what kind of board meeting we're having.
Don't even do that.
then approval to shift a math interventionist position from an Ed Tech 3 to a half-time teacher position. We have been unable to fill the Ed Tech 3 position in hopes that by moving it to a part-time teacher position that maybe we'll have a little more luck.
Are we getting emergency credentials for them, or how are we handling that?
There are no qualified applicants. So there's no credentialing that can be obtained if we don't have anyone in the pool. So we're looking to see if someone would prefer to be a part-time teacher and might be qualified in the field and come in the mornings or such to help us with our intervention needs that we do have. They are real needs. We could really use an additional staff member to help with that.
Do they have to have an educational threshold to meet?
So in the previous position, when it was classified as an Ed Tech 3, they would need an Ed Tech 3 certification, which is 90 credit hours. And a state certification and their fingerprinting. And for a part-time teacher, we're looking at a K-8 or it's a grades 3 through 5 group that we're targeting, so the K-8 is where we fall. That's an 020 certification. And so that's a teaching cert, which is a bachelor's degree. But that could be someone who's retired as a teacher but still has a current certification and has some interest in coming and working with kids in groups of 1 to 3 or 4 every 30 minutes. Doesn't that sound like a dream? I think so.
I love it.
More like a nightmare.
So because we're making this shift from one association to another association, we are looking at doing this just for a year. The board needs to officially make need to approve it.
I move that be approved.
You have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Jeff. Now you can have questions or comments.
Good luck.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries.
All right, then we have another one. This is at the middle school. It's a reach position, moving it from an Ed Tech 3 to a part-time teacher position as well. Do you want to talk? This one's a
Yes,
little
this one's
different.
a little different. So our REACH staffing has 2 certified teachers and has had 1 certified Ed Tech 3 historically for quite a while. And the Ed Tech 3 would provide gifted and talented services in the grades 3 through 5 spaces across 3 elementary schools. That person has retired. We have reviewed our identified needs, and we actually decided to kind of get ahead of things and shift the teacher into the elementary spaces. The demand's pretty high at the elementary spaces. We wanted to ensure that there were 2 things happening in those spaces. Student groups are still pulled out for accelerated services, but also now we're moving into some co-teaching push-in model work in some spaces, which really that's what you want for accelerated learners, to be able to accelerate the curriculum they're already accessing instead of doing a curriculum in a classroom and having to have a whole separate kind of body of work over here. We want them to have community with a group of accelerated learners, and we want them to be able to accelerate in the expectations of their grade level standards or standards above the grade level. So we felt like that was a really good match. We redesigned the REACH service model at the middle school. Because it was such a redesign, we did not feel comfortable hiring an Ed Tech 3 in that position. An Ed Tech 3 doesn't have a lot of autonomy and authority on one's own. Although as a human being, they probably would be very good at it, right? But we have certification rules. And so what we've done is we've utilized our literacy coach and our math coach, both experts in the field, as well as our art teacher, and then the wraparound 2 REACH teachers for consultation purposes to ensure this a redesigned model. Parts of it are going really well. Parts of it from families we're hearing need some improvement. Some of that is because we have people doing 2 jobs at once, right? 2 big jobs at once. So what we're looking for is, instead of an Ed Tech 3 that's working autonomously without a lot of supervision in that specific space, for about the same cost, have a part-time gifted and talented or REACH teacher that would work within the model we have, but enable a little more of the community building, the consistency with one person. And there's some interventions we're realizing. Acceleration can be an intervention. We're realizing some of these students could benefit from having a consistent adult targeted there rather than people trying to do multiple jobs and provide support. Some of the new model is doing what it's designed to do, and we're excited about that. But again, that transition was a little too quick for some of our students and their families. And so we're trying to be responsive to the situation we're in, and enable a teacher who has more authority, more ability for, grading, parent communication, and independence, that an Ed Tech 3 coming brand new into our district would take a while to get up to speed, and then would still, required by law, need to have supervision. You see the difference? So that's why we're asking for the reclassification. We haven't done it this way before, so we would like to advertise it, and would like to really, which is an awkward thing, advertise it for this year, see how this transition goes, and then look at our budgeting process in the typical budget cycle and figure out what is the best route forward.
I may comment, it sounds a lot like what we just talked about in curriculum, building those community-based kind of approaches to smaller groups and consistency.
Yeah.
If I'm right, all right. So I
With
think
someone who has and ideally we'd be having someone come in who has an endorsement in gifted and talented, it's like the 690 certificate. I mean, that's our ideal world. If those people existed, wouldn't that be great? And they only want to work part-time.
Part-time,
Who
right.
knows?
Well, there's some other half-time ed tech positions across the
Right,
district. they can decide.
You could put together and make a full-time.
We can make a little bit of a
We
full-time
could be
position.
creative.
And in our own
creative.
building, we have some, so they don't even have to travel.
See,
Even better.
That's excellent.
who wouldn't want that?
Who wouldn't?
That's
Again,
what I'm saying.
it's an
Everybody
ideal
does.
world.
I'm right there with you. Who wouldn't
Come
want
join
that?
us.
Feel free to apply.
I can't and be here. But I encourage all my friends to.
Right, I can be an ed tech or I can be you.
That's right. Okay,
I move that we do so as discussed.
all right.
Second that,
And a second by Tony or
whoever.
Megan?
If that's
All right,
yes.
all those in favor?
It's not like.
All right, this is a long meeting.
Yep, I knew it would be.
Okay,
Yeah.
update on the community listening project plan, strategic
That
plan
other thing.
initiative.
That other thing,
We're gonna do this very quickly.
Really quickly.
This is gonna be the, I promise.
You're getting heckled from your.
We will do a much more thorough update when I've done more work since the last time I provided you the update. The plan still is to gather the information that we worked on over the summer and get it out to our strategic listening partners, basically our stakeholders who participate in the process and gain some valuable feedback, collate that and ensure that it kind of comes back to you to see where we stand. The only movement we've made, because this has been a big, assessments and professional development and all that stuff's been going on. That beginning part, if you remember the beginning part of the strategic listening report is really, what do you value? What does your community value? Where do you see the future of education in our district? So it was global, right? And that's the part we spent our time on over the summer first, before we got into the 4 themes. And that's the part we're going to initially get feedback on our drafts. I've learned recently that other places are actually housing that information instead of just like the preamble to the strategic plan. It's actually called the community compact. And the reason for that is because instead of just saying, here's our vision, our mission, and our values, this is a community compact this is our agreement, this is our shared promise that and then it's not the school's mission, vision, and values or the school districts. It is because it was designed and built from that of all of our stakeholder groups. It is our community compact. We all play a role in it. Our families will have to engage and buy into a degree with it, our community partners, our school members, and our students. And we'd like to move forward with that, but before we started branding anything that hasn't even been created yet, we thought we'd get a quick little check here from you.
I love that.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
I know it seems just like wordsmithing for some people, but it does, words matter. So
Words have
that's what we're
intention,
thinking about,
and that's
right?
really important. So do you want a thumbs up or a raw or
I saw a lot of head nodding. If anyone disagrees, I figured they'll say something.
thumbs up?
I mean, in other
haven't
places
done that
I've
all
worked,
night.
we've done that type of thing, and we've actually had a thing you could sign
wall.
somewhere.
Yep.
Or a certificate you could take and say you were part of it. So maybe
Absolutely.
that's a thing we could do, yeah.
Nice.
Excellent.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Board chair report. I'm going to be really brief, even though I had more to say, I'll be really brief. So this year is the 50th annual Maine School Management Fall Conference. It's on the 26th and 27th in Augusta. Alyssa, you're our delegate.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that, by the way. And we have some really great resolutions that the Resolutions Committee has been working on, so thank you for that. Let's see. Could I, before you move on? Right now, we have Becky, Megan, Alyssa, Andrea, Molly, Diane, Ara, and Sage all attending the conference. We're all signed up. This is probably the largest group that we've had.
I'd like to go.
That's why I'm here. Did we miss anyone?
My last one.
Anyone else?
Okay, anyone else want to
You
go?
say it's your last one. Anyone else like to go?
I think I can't make the full thing, but I think I'm signed up for the Wednesday
Yes.
evening one.
Okay, yes, I've signed you up for the vice chair
Yeah.
training.
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay,
cool.
and I'll see you there.
okay.
Okay.
Part of it.
It's right in my calendar.
Because I serve on the National School Board Board of Directors, the president of the National School Boards Association will be joining us at our fall conference, so that's a really cool thing. Christy Sweat is the president of NSBA, and she is from Utah. So we went to Utah in August, and that was just really interesting. Got to go to Utah. Secondly, and I'll be brief on this, the eastern region of the National School Board had a regional get-together 2 weekends ago down in Boston. And we worked a lot together. The issues across the states, across the country are similar. And I was really thinking when we were talking about behavior on buses, that was it's like a general theme. It's not just here, it is everywhere. And it's very concerning because of the mental health of our students that are coming to school. The first stop that they get to as they walk out the door is on a bus. And depending on what their introduction to the day has been like, really has an impact for the first however long they're on that bus. So it's not just us. That shouldn't make us feel any better or any safer. Or we're one of thousands of school districts across the country that are struggling with this. And a lot of what we talk about is diversity and equity. And I know that those are buzzwords for bad things, but when we at the National School Board talk about diversity and equity, it's that our kids are diverse. And diversity means poverty. Diversity means ability to learn. It means a whole myriad of things that children have zero control over. And equity means that we're going to do our best to meet every student where they are. And it's different than equality. Equality means everybody gets 5 crackers. Equity means I need 5, you need 3. And that's what we're looking at doing, is to just meet kids where they are. And it's a hard job. So staffing, getting staff to want to stay, that's a hard thing. And it's a struggle everywhere. We spent a lot of time in breakout groups trying to find positive ways to have conversations with people that we don't agree with about how to make things better for kids, because that's why we're here. It's about kids. And every parent is one of our students once a while ago. So to just have some empathy and to just practice asking why, how, help me understand. We did role playing of, start with asking a question. Don't make a statement. Ask a question. How did we get here? How can we help? Why is it? Why do you feel that way? Help me understand what it is. Anyway, I won't go on and on, but it was very productive. And I just want to assure all of you that we're not alone. We're part of a very large group called Public Education. And I appreciate everyone here who's all of you guys who are willing to keep doing it, and you guys for doing it as well. So come to the conference, good stuff. And I'm done. Superintendent.
Okay, I will try to be brief as well. I wanted to bring to your attention that there is a new pilot program through the Department of Education in an effort to prevent student homelessness. School districts around the state are being given a sum of money that can be used to provide financial assistance to families. It would be managed kind of through the central office. In our case, it would be Alicia, who oversees the McKinney-Vento, which is the homelessness program. And what this pilot program provides is up to $750 per student per year. We only have about $10,000 in the district, however, so it's first come, first serve. And the money is to be used in a situation where you have a student whose family may become homeless because they can't pay their rent. They can't, their electricity maybe is going to be shut off. And so up to $750 can be used for the school district to pay the landlord directly or pay the CMP bill directly. The money would not go to the individual. It would go directly to the service that is potentially being cut off. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of this program, and that's what I wanted to talk to you today.
Now it came to you.
Yeah, one of the problems that folks have is that they cannot come up with a deposit that's required in most cases these days. Can this be used for for a deposit on a rental unit?
I don't think so. It is to avoid, it's to avoid homelessness. It says rental assistance, so I don't know, maybe.
That would be something I would reach out.
Yeah,
I'd like to
maybe.
know, because that would be a positive help, because some folk can, they're single mother working. She can feed the family and probably pay the rent, but she can't afford to give the deposit because that way they get no food this month.
Yeah, it says that it's for rental assistance, paying for utilities, critical home repairs, and other assistance that will help a student avoid homelessness. So, maybe, Jim, if they're gonna be homeless and they have access to a better living situation,
I just think if they are.
it's a question.
Based on the situation.
Yeah.
I'd like to know if you could.
Sorry?
Who literally administers it? Like who sits there and just evaluates
Alicia.
each? Okay. And do you have like a fixed rubric or it's discretionary on your part?
For this right here, this is new, so.
Don't know yet.
We don't know
I
yet.
don't know.
But invoices are required, so it's not like we just write a check out to, some person who has given us their name and say, here's my address, send me the money. It has to be a legitimate business so that the money is spent appropriately. So anyways, I wanted to make sure you are aware of that. And members of the public were made aware of this funding opportunity. Update on current staffing, you've heard us talk about this. We currently have 3 ed tech openings at Helen Thompson, a district ed tech 1, and ed tech 1 in the autism program, and an ed tech 2 position in the autism program. We have 2 ed tech 1 positions for special ed at Pittston Randolph that are unfilled. At Riverview, Pittston, Randolph, we currently have a PE teacher position. You've already heard us talk about the math teaching interventionist. At the middle school, we still have a special ed teacher position vacant. We have an ed tech 2 in special ed. We have the library ed tech and the position that Angela just spoke of. At the high school, we have a special ed teacher in the behavioral program open, although we have a plan in place that is working. We have a child nutrition worker position that will be available for 5 hours a day, starting November 1st. And we now have an administrative assistant position open for an evening position and a career college advisor. I think we've filled the math instructor position. Of course, we still have an instructional coach in math, K-8, a board certified behavior analysis who would be 2 to 3 days a week, bus driver, and as Andrea said, she's working to fill the business office generalist. So we still have a lot of positions available. Alicia and I are speaking with the associations about some ideas, some creative ways that we can maybe find individuals to fill some of these vacant positions. Every time these positions aren't filled, it is more work for the staff that we have, right? Fewer bodies, so others are picking up the work, and it really is creating a huge strain and stressor on our staff. So we're working as hard as we can to fill those positions. National Honor Society, once again, the induction will be November 6th at 6 o'clock at the high school. Certainly hope those who are available can attend. And then your next board meeting is November 2nd, Thursday, November 2nd.
Field trip.
If you remember from last year, what happens on the first Thursday in November? Drama. So we have the woman who would come to, who came to dinner. Uh-huh.
You came to dinner?
Thank you. She is the lead. So last year, the board said that it was committed to attending those drama performances whenever possible. So that begins at 7:00. So my question to you, are you still committed to having the board attend? And they're fabulous. They're so much fun to go to. If you are, that means we need to have an earlier board meeting. So how soon can we have a board meeting? And it needs to be here so that we're televised. And you need to give yourself enough time that you can then drive over, park, and get into the show by 7:00. So we need to be done by 6:30. I don't yet know what's going to be on the agenda. Is it possible to begin as early as 5:00 to give you an hour and a half?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it possible to designate like a row of seats so that we could all come in at the end?
I
and,
might know somebody
like,
that
at the
knows
last-
about tickets that could do that.
We
I might have
if-
just taken that over, so I say that like.
There you go. So
Yeah.
we'll all have to find
So
seats
November
or whatever.
2nd will
Yeah.
be a 5:00 school board meeting here. And what I would ask each of you to do is to, before you leave tonight, tell me how many tickets you want or email me.
How about, let me do it.
Okay, that would be great,
Yeah, then you
Alyssa.
don't have to.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Let Alyssa know how many tickets you want. I assume they're $10 each for an adult?
Yeah.
And so board members still are responsible for paying to attend. And pay Alyssa or work it out with
We can do
Alyssa.
it there, yep.
Awesome.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
Be right at the door, can't we?
You can.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we did last year.
Yeah.
Also, update, I wanted you to know that we do have a new SRO who will be joining us on Monday. So many of you know the name Scott McMaster. Scott was an SRO here in the district many, many years ago. And we're really pleased to have him rejoining us. So we're excited to have Scott as part of our team. And then the last thing that I have is student enrollment. You already have in the board packet the end of September enrollment. So that you can look at those numbers yourself. But I also wanted to make sure, as I try to do every year, is to let you know the other types of enrollment things that are happening behind the scenes. So for this school year, my office has processed and touched another 364 requests for student enrollment situations. So we have open enrollment, which means a student may live in Pittston and want to go to school in Helen Thompson, right? We had 15 of those this year. We have 39 students who are entering the school district from another school district, another community. This year, we denied 7 because of our staffing shortage. There were students that we just could not accept. But overall, we touched 50 requests for students to come in. While we have 39 coming in, we have 34 going out. We denied 8 and we touched 45 in some fashion. We also have homeschool students. We have 36 first-year homeschool students. Subsequent homeschool students is 134. This is much higher than it used to be prior to COVID. We've received a lot of students back, but we still have many families who have chosen to homeschool their children. However, this year we have 9 students that have been homeschooled that they've now elected to re-enroll. We have 5 who have decided to go to a private school. And let's see, we have 9 students who are in some capacity participating in our programs. So even though they're homeschooled, they can elect to participate, maybe take 2 classes, 3 classes, 4 classes, or participate in extra and co-curricular. And so we have 9 homeschool students who are participating in some capacity in the district. We have 22 students who are in a private school. We have 28 students that are attending our school on tuition. So they probably live in like RSU 12. They don't have a high school, they get to select, so RSU 12 has to pay us. I know we have one tuition student from RSU 4. The family has selected to pay tuition so that their child can attend school here. So that totals 364. So it gets pretty busy during the summer months, especially during August, when Martha is handling and processing all of these types of requests, well, Martha and me. So I always try to give you a little bit of an insight of what's happening behind the scenes and just thought you would like to have that information.
For homeschool students, you mentioned some of them take a couple classes with us. Does that help at all with, I mean, does the state still not give us?
They do.
Oh.
Yes, we're able to take the amount of time that they spend in the district and we receive subsidy for that amount of time. Yeah.
Are we able to give homeschool students some of the services that we have available to regular students, like say a speech therapist or something like that?
We have to provide them information on how to access special ed services if they wish to do so.
So we could offer that or, okay.
Yeah, we have to let them know that they're available. And so I don't know if we have any, do you?
There are some homeschool students that could potentially receive services, but in order to receive the supplemental service, they have to take the general ed class as well. So for example, if they're qualified for under a specific learning disability in reading and they want to access reading services, they have to take reading through the general ed setting as well.
How about speech therapy?
We can provide speech services. Currently, our speech pathologists are at max capacity, so we have to make sure that we can service students in district before we start servicing homeschool students. But we have in the past if we have the capacity to do so.
So that's my report.
I have a private school question. So are monies following students going to private school?
Private schools do not receive state subsidy unless they're a 60-40.
Religious, do we have any?
No, there are no students who attend a religious school in which our money is following them. The law, I'm sorry, title money,
Unless
title
the
money.
child qualifies for title services. So for example, if a child is going to St. Michael's School in Augusta and qualifies for title services, their title services are actually serviced through Augusta School District, and therefore Augusta gets our Title I money to pay for their title services that way.
But in terms of regular tuition, they do not, because we provide a public high school. It is different for like MSAD or RSU 12, in which they don't provide a high school. So if those students or those families decide to send their high school student to a religious school, then that tuition would follow them. That's a new law.
Yes.
Yeah.
Main
But it
set the
does not
face for the
affect
country.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions online? I would recommend then that we table the executive session only because we don't have any information to share. The negotiations committee has a meeting scheduled for the 23rd of October. So hopefully at the November meeting, we will actually have some information to share with the board.
Then I call us adjourned.
Second.
Third, fourth, and fifth. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.